The first Sonic racing games were Sonic Drift and Sonic Drift 2. The first Sonic Drift was released on the Game Gear in 1994. The Game Gear was Sega's handheld system to compete with the Game Boy, and with it came many different Sonic games, Sonic Drift being a kart racing game, but not a really good one. The main issue I got with Sonic Drift is that you can barely see what's in front of you. This is a very big flaw for a racing game, since the gameplay involves making split-second decisions, and the flashing lights do not help. I can't see what's going on. The tracks here are based on Sonic 1, 2, and CD, and when it comes to playable characters, there's only 4. The roster being expanded in 1995 with Sonic Drift 2. Sonic Drift 2 is miles better than the original. All the tracks stand out from each other, which was an issue present in the first game, as a lot of the tracks just blended together. Big W for Sonic Drift 2 on that end. There's still other issues that carry over from the first game here, but never mind that, look at the roster. Knuckles, Metal Sonic, Fang the Sniper, this is cool. Do I recommend you to play these games? Absolutely not, no, stay the hell away from them. But everyone has to start out somewhere, and thankfully Sonic racing games get so much better as the years go on.
Hey Sonic! Enjoy your future! It's gonna be great!
Sonic R feels like a fever dream. I cannot believe it is a real game, but here we are, the only real Sonic game for the Sega Saturn. And I love it for all the wrong reasons. This game is ridiculous. Sonic R was actually not developed by Sonic Team, as they were working on Sonic Extreme at the time. Thus, the game was outsourced to Traveler's Tales. Traveler's Tales was making a Formula 1 game, but then decided to scrap the idea of the F1 game, carrying the engine over to this new Sonic racing game, and simply built the game off the engine, which is the main reason why Sonic feels like a car in the game. Yeah, the physics feel like an F1 game, like how it was supposed to be done. However, the level design doesn't really accommodate for that, as we got these open areas to run around in, even though Sonic and the rest of the gang feel like vehicles. This means that exploration and making tight turns is a nightmare in this game. Now you might be saying, why is there open areas in a racing game? Well, that's what I'm asking you, because this game for some reason encourages exploration even though it's supposed to be a racing game. Sonic R has 5 tracks, each one having extremely open level design, something that would be right at home for a 3D platformer. Meanwhile, you're supposed to be racing on there, getting some collectibles, and jamming out to the soundtrack because it's absolutely lit. Words cannot describe how crazy the Sonic R soundtrack is. It doesn't feel right for a Sonic racing game, but it goes so hard, oh my god. You start off with a couple of characters in Sonic R, those being Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, and Amy. How do you unlock characters in this game? Well, it's actually very simple, not really. Alright, so in the race, you've got to have a certain amount of rings in order to open this gate. Once you open this gate, you grab the Sonic token with the Sonic face on it, you walk out of the gate, and if you get first place and have that token on you, you can race against an unlockable character. Beating them unlocks them. Rinse and repeat a bunch of times, and boom. What the f is that? Out of the unlockable characters, you got your Metal Sonic, your Egg Robo, but then you got stuff like Metal Knuckles and the Tails doll, which are characters that were made exclusively for the game. Not gonna lie, I like the concept of Metal Knuckles, he looks pretty cool. The Tails doll, on the other hand, why? Like, it's not cool looking, there's no lore behind it. It just looks creepy. Just look at how he floats, man. If you were 7 years old playing Sonic R, you stared at this image at 3 AM in the dark, what would you do? You would freak out. I'm guessing that was the intention though, and if it was, good job. But yeah, overall, Sonic R, not a really good game, but it just fascinates me because it's such a weird game.
Whew, that was close.
The early 2000s was the period of time with the most Sonic spin-off games, and the one that is regarded to be the most underrated one, and by some people the greatest Sonic spin-off game of all time, was a little Sonic racing game called Sonic Racing Kart on the Nokia. Hell yeah, this is where it's at. Being 100% for real though, Sonic Riders is a classic. Sonic Riders was not your average Sonic racing game. It's not your average racing game in general.
This is something else.
This game released in 2006. Yes, the same year as Sonic 06. It's crazy how you can go from being a rider to on the ground burning up on fire. For real though, the fall off was crazy, because Sonic Riders is a great game. This is a racing game like no other. This is a hoverboarding game. The mechanics in this game are surprisingly full of depth. It's one of those games that's not for beginners, and it's a bit tricky to master, but once you got the flow of it, it feels so right. High speed on a hoverboard, performing tricks in the air, timing the start of the race perfectly, all of that stuff is so satisfying to perform. When you start up Sonic Riders, you get this awesome opening intro. This is all hand-drawn in a beautiful art style. Dude, I miss when Sonic games had these opening intros. From the hype-inducing music to the beautiful animation, the opening is just a wonderful way to start up the game. And when you get into the story mode, dude, these CGI cutscenes hold up. This stuff be looking better than most of Sonic Force's cutscenes. And of course, how could I not mention the Babylon Rogues, the new rivals for this game? We got Jet the Hawk, Storm, and Wave. They're so well designed. I also love the fact that Jet the Hawk was inspired by Tony Hawk. I just think that's neat. Overall, Sonic Riders is a certified hood classic. Is it my favorite Sonic racing game? I mean, it's not as good as Sonic Racing Kart, but I got a lot of respect for this game. Sonic Riders was successful, and with any successful game there's bound to be a sequel or two. Sonic Riders ended up becoming a trilogy. The first sequel, Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, released in 2008 for both the Wii and the PS2. Meanwhile, the third game, Sonic Riders, ended up releasing exclusively on the Xbox 360 Kinect in 2010. I already talked about Zero Gravity on my Sonic games on Wii video, but basically I think the game is a downgrade from the first. It's an oversimplified version of the first game, which would be great for beginners, but for longtime fans of the first game, it's not great. Some of the gimmicks are pretty cool though, like the anti-gravity, and the music once again slaps, but all in all I just think it's a 5 out of 10 game. But Zero Gravity is a masterpiece compared to Sonic Riders, because Sonic Riders might just be one of the worst Sonic games ever made, right there with Sonic and the Secret Rings, and Sonic Blast on the Game Gear. You don't want to be down there. The best thing I can say about Sonic Riders is that the opening intro slaps. I am falling free in the wind after playing this game. The main problem being the controls. Oh my god. The Xbox 360 Kinect is the only controller you can use to play this game. It is required, which already sounds bad on its own, but once you get to playing it, oh my god, it's so much worse. If you somehow don't remember, which I don't blame you, the Xbox 360 Kinect was supposed to be a competitor to the Wii or the PlayStation Move, but instead of using motion controls to play the games, you're using your hands and your body. The Kinect was perfectly fine for games like Just Dance. There was even like a Star Wars dancing game for the Kinect, that one was fun. But if you try to play any other game on the Kinect, it was gonna be frustrating. And I don't know what the higher-ups at Sega were smoking, but Sonic Riders does not translate to motion controls. Case in point, Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. That game was a super simplified version of the original because it was using the motion controls of the Wii. For Sonic Riders, you have to use your body and hands and you gotta jump on your own, meaning that the gameplay is even more simplified than before. What makes it even worse is that the Kinect sometimes doesn't even register your moves, so half the time you're just wobbling your hands around and jumping like an idiot for no reason. If any game can make you look like a maniac, it's Sonic Riders. This game sucks. Do I really have to say anything else about this game? No. It's like beating up an already dead horse. This game was the main culprit on who killed the Sonic Riders franchise. This is why we'll never get a third one. And you might be saying, what do you mean a third one? This is the third one. No, this is not. This game does not exist. This game should be erased from the canon. But being for real, look at Rouge. Yo! Thankfully, Riders was not the only Sonic racing game to be released in 2010, as earlier in the year we got a game called Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, a more traditional racing game featuring Sonic as well as a bunch of other Sega characters, which is really cool. The first Sonic Riders as well as Zero Gravity tried doing that, but this game cranks the crossover element to 11. Even Banjo-Kazooie is up in here for the Xbox 360 version of the game, and the tracks are all unique and full of life. This game knocked it out of the park. It's a great alternative to Mario Kart. 2 years later, we got a follow-up called Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, and holy... This game is not only the greatest Sonic racing game of all time, but it might also be one of the greatest kart racing games ever made. What? When I first played Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed a few years ago, I came in there with barely any expectations. I expected it to be a solid racing game, not more than that, but oh my god, this game is awesome. Remember how fun the gameplay was in the first one? It's even more fun here since you can go on water and you can fly. Yes, the car can transform, just like the title implies. The tracks being incredible here. Every lap they changed the layout. On the first lap you can be having a blast racing around, and on the second you could be flying across the air or drifting through the water. Getting a boost feels so satisfying. You can customize your vehicle to your liking. The character selection is even better. The handling is awesome. Drifting around feels so satisfying. The music is beautiful, and Wreck-It Ralph is here. Oh my god. I don't think I gotta say more. This game is awesome. It doesn't matter where you play it, on the Xbox, on the Wii U, on the Steam Deck. You're guaranteed to have a blast with this game. Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed is a worthy opponent to Mario Kart. Their battle will be legendary. Team Sonic Racing is okay. After getting a surprising amount of delays, Team Sonic Racing was released in 2019 from the same developers of the other two Sonic Racing games, Sumo Digital, and it's fine. It's a good game. I do have my issues with the game though, not just because it's by default the worst in the trilogy, but because it doesn't have an identity of its own. The selling point of the game is that it's Team Sonic Racing, not just Sonic Racing. But when you actually play the game, the team mechanic doesn't shine. More often than not, it feels like an afterthought, something to put at the back of the box instead of an actual gameplay mechanic. And making the character selection only Sonic characters was kinda lame. I really enjoyed the crossover element of the first two games. Having that taken away feels wrong. It feels like a regression. The tracks also lack a lot of the depth that the first two games had. And besides the opening intro music, I cannot remember a single song from this game. To put it lightly, Team Sonic Racing is forgettable. It's inoffensive, it's not a bad game, it's solid. However, the first two games established a really high standard for quality, and Team Sonic Racing just feels like a drop-off. So yeah, those were some Sonic Racing games. I tried not to talk about the mobile ones, because I'm planning to do a Sonic mobile games video someday, so yeah, stay tuned for that one. If you enjoyed the content, then make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment telling me what you want to see next. As always, thank you all for watching. Always remember to look both ways across the street, you don't want to get run over. And yeah, video's over, go home.